Well, hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on this Zoom call. This is not live. If you're seeing this, this was previously recorded because we had to find a time that worked for everybody's schedules and weren't sure if we'd be able to do it in a live setting. So, what we did is we got everybody together and want to talk to you, or most of us. We've got a few others, but these are our collaborators and people that we're working with to help bring content to you, to help encourage you in your faith journey. And so I wanted to take a little bit of an opportunity to chat with them and help you get to know who's going to be writing and podcasting and maybe creating video content, whatever is going to be happening. We want you to be able to put a face with a name. And so we're going to take a couple minutes and kind of introduce the people to you. If you know some of these people, be sure to say hello to them in the comments and let them know that you're excited for some of their content. Maybe tag some of your friends, invite people to the Everyday Christian Network. Let them know. Last I checked, we were at 898 likes on our Facebook page, and we haven't even really launched yet. So that's pretty exciting. So we need two people. So tag a couple people. Maybe we'll be over 900 by then, but we'll just shoot for 1,000 and then 10,000, 100,000, all that stuff. So we're going to take a few minutes tonight just to chat and let you kind of know who we are. And that way you have a better idea of what the network is going to be all about. So I don't know how everybody sees the screen, but I'm going to start with the person right here, which to me is Miss Jen Holmes. We're going to chat with you for just a second. So, Jen, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and maybe a little bit about what you're planning to bring to the table as far as the network's concerned.
Yeah, my name is Jennifer Holmes. I've been writing online for a few years. I write on mental health and faith. I'm currently getting my master's in biblical counseling. And I also write from the perspective of someone who struggles with their own mental health after being diagnosed with bipolar 2 years ago. And I am going to be writing for the Everyday Christian Network once a week, have a column going there with a monthly theme. And I'm also relaunching my previous podcast to now join the network. And it will be called Head and Heart Honest Conversations on Mental Health and Faith. And we're going to have lots of conversations with different people, some solo episodes. And I've already been interviewing people, and I'm really excited to share that with you.
Uh, Tell us, can you give a couple of names away? Who are you interviewing? What are some of the conversations you're having?
Okay, so I just finished right before this call. I just finished an interview with Eric Shoemaker and Elise Fitzpatrick, who wrote the book Worthy and have the Worthy podcast. Highly recommend that book and them. And Elise Fitzpatrick is a legend in the biblical counseling world. She's written 23 books. So
Wow,
I was super excited to have them on. And I told them, I feel like I have celebrities on my podcast. I was so excited. So
that's awesome.
we had a great conversation about the value of women.
Yep. Fantastic. And your podcast, we're looking at closer to spring, I think is kind of what we're looking at right now. We're trying to get a few episodes under the belt and kind of be ready to launch that so that once we get going, we don't have to pause or anything. We want to be able to just keep right
That's
on
right.
rolling. So some really great stuff coming from Jen. You have a book that you've written as well. I think it's going to be on the website. Tyler, I know you're our web guy. That's the plan, right? I know we're still a couple weeks out as we're recording this from launching, but the plan is to have a link with her book and Nick's, and I think Lyssandra's is going to be on there. Is that a
That is
correct
that is
statement?
correct. Yes.
Okay. So looking forward to having those available. So tell us what it is, and if they want to get it today, where could they go right now to get access to it?
Yeah, it's called Hope That Outlasts the Ashes. And it's a study on hope from the book of Job. And I wrote it after a season when my then pastor husband had an affair and had to step down from the pastorate. And it's the story of how I made it through that using the book of Job. And so very personal and very dear to me. And you can find it on Amazon.
So Jen, you've just had a super easy breezy life, bipolar 2, an affair. I mean, nothing big.
Nothing big, but my God is bigger.
Right. That's awesome. And I'm so excited to have you part of this because I think you're going to be able to bring a lot to the table. And so I'll tell you a little bit about my podcast later, but Jen is, I think, episode 1 of my podcast. It's 1 or 2, and I think it's number 1 of my podcast that's coming out, called Christian Conversations, which I'll talk about at the end. But really great conversation with Jen. And so I'm excited to have her part of this as well. So awesome. Now I'm going to move over to Nick Minerva, who I've known Nick for years, and super excited. I knew him when we both had baby faces and we weren't growing these beards like the men do. And Thomas apparently
That's
is
right.
just trying, it looks like maybe. But we've known each other for a long time. And Nick, also, we'll have you tell us about your book here in a second. But
Yeah.
first, maybe kind of introduce yourself, tell us what you do, where you're at, and kind of what you're planning to contribute to the network.
Absolutely. I'm Nick Minerva. I live in Fresno, California, and I serve as an associate pastor at Fresno Church. I've been there just over 11 years now. And I've just recently started writing, and I will be writing as a collaborator for the network, specifically focused on Christian living with an emphasis on how do we live for eternity in our present state. A lot of what I write, I try to help Christians know how we can thrive, as First Peter says, even though that we're living in exile. So this world isn't our home, but how can we thrive and point people to Jesus as we live in a place that isn't our final home? So that's something that I've really enjoyed doing and looking forward to bringing to the network.
And you have a book with that title, Thriving in Exile.
Yes, sir. It's called Thriving in Exile. Yes, sir.
So tell us a little bit about that and where that can be found.
Yeah. It's just a study on First Peter. That's where the idea I got from, Thriving in Exile. Last year was a year that kind of confronted everybody with suffering in some form or another. And as I was reading First Peter, I just thought, man, there's just so much in here that's so on the nose and applicable for so much of what we're facing. And so I did a study on it, and then that's where the book came from. You can find the book on my website, nickminerva.com. Real original with the URL.
Right.
But yeah, you can find it on there. You can also find it on Amazon as well.
Okay. And I like what you said a second ago. You said applicable. That's the whole goal, by the way, for those of you listening to this, of this network. It's we're trying to keep it simple on purpose. Take deep, rich theological truths, but present them in a way that are helpful, that are encouraging, that are bite-sized chunks. For example, like what Jennifer said a second ago, she's going to be writing kind of a month-long series, but you'll get a piece each week. So it's kind of this longer theme, but every week you'll be able to get a nugget of it. So the idea is to kind of come back on a daily basis and learn and grow and develop through some of the content that's being produced with podcasts and articles and things of that nature. So while you may hear things like Thriving in Exile, First Peter, what does all that mean? All of that's going to be explained, and all of those things are going to be helpful to you. So something I think to look forward there. So Nick, I appreciate you and your willingness to be a part of this. I know everybody here is super busy, so I'm excited that they're taking part in doing this. Let's go to Lysandra. Lysandra, super excited to have you on board. You have already been an experienced podcaster and writer and things. So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, where you serve, and then maybe jump into how you're going to be a part of the network.
All right. Well, I am a stay-at-home mom. My husband is a pastor, and I homeschool our 4 daughters. And I'm very active in the ministry with my husband, and I write for some other networks as well. So I stay busy, but I'm not employed. Yeah.
You do a lot for very little money.
Yes.
Yeah,
but very happily.
Good deal. Now you podcast with Thomas right now. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your podcast, and then tell us about, you have a newly released book. Tell us about the podcast and the book.
Okay. Our podcast is called The Family Meeting, and we talk about family relationships. We talk about our marriage. We talk about our parenting styles and our philosophy. We, of course, go to the Word of God for everything, and that is our basis for everything that we believe and everything that we practice. And we just try to be really open and honest about everything. We'll talk about our fights. We'll talk about times our children yelled at us. We just try to be really honest and try to be relevant and help people with whatever they might be struggling with in their relationships. And we also have some cool interviews on there as well. And then my book is called Balancing the Crazy, because sometimes it feels like my life is very, very crazy.
Because you're married to Thomas.
Yes. Yes. Being married to Thomas keeps everything crazy.
He's crazy.
Bit. He is, but he's wonderful. So, but my book is really about the reason that I chose to write this book is because of how many women were talking. And I ended up in so many conversations with women saying, I don't have enough time to do everything, or I'm not being the wife I'm supposed to be. I can't be the mom I'm supposed to be and the wife I'm supposed to be. And just feeling so much pressure with expectations and obligations and responsibilities. And it really weighs on you. And so how do you balance your life?
Yeah.
And so that is what the book is about, balancing the crazy, and it can be found on Amazon.
So what's your role with the network? What are you planning to kind of write about or do? Podcasting some, I think, as well. What's Lysandra going to be bringing to the table that we can be excited about?
So I will be writing a blog, and I'll be having some articles out there that are more generalized just to Christian living. But my main passion is being a mom. I love my kids. I love interacting with them. I love learning from them and from my own mistakes with them. And so I'm going to have a blog entitled The Everyday Christian Mom. And I'm also going to turn that into a podcast. So where I'll talk about that and interview other moms.
I love it. Awesome. Looking forward to that. Tyler, good to have you aboard, man. Tyler and I had worked together a little bit in the past, and then he heard that so I'd kind of launched the network once before, and then COVID and my schedule and everything changed, and I learned a lot of how not to do a network. And I was announcing that I was getting ready to relaunch it and thinking about it, and Tyler's like, I want in. How can I help? I was like, I want you in. I need your help. So Tyler, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah. So again, I'm Tyler. I am the student pastor at First Baptist Church of Bedford, down here in Bedford, Indiana. I know everyone's been here. It's a huge city.
Yeah.
But no, we've been here actually only 5 months, so it's been new for us, and we really enjoy it. And that's I've been married for 5 years. That's my wife Elizabeth, and served in Chicago and Arkansas, and just been a little bit of everywhere. And now just really excited to get to be a part of the network here. My main thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm really the back end of it all. I get to do a little bit of graphic design, help with the website, and really just get to, I've gotten to see the podcasts and some of the blogs and all of that stuff kind of curate, and I've gotten to see it. And there's some incredible content that you're going to get to see and get to really just dive into and really learn from. And I get to make that easy accessible for you to be able to get into and look at and all of that stuff. So
yeah,
really excited about that.
Tyler's a big part of this because I dream, and then I'm going to introduce Thomas here in a little bit as well. Thomas is going to help us with a lot of the leadership of this. We got together and we were dreaming. And then when Tyler's like, hey, I can help with like mailing lists and emails and all that back end stuff. And we were like, yes, we want that. But we are not experts at that, and we might fumble through it and figure it out. But it's stuff that Tyler has a lot more natural giftedness towards. And so we brought him on. When I say brought people on board, just so you know, no one is getting paid. And so we're not really bringing them on board. We're just saying, yes, please come help us. We need you. So these are just wonderful people, servants of God, who are helping us out. John Jupp is, again, a longtime friend, and he and I have probably talked the least about the network because his schedule lately has been crazy. I don't even know if you know what you're doing yet. I have some expectations, but tell me what you think they are, and then we'll see if we're lining up at all.
Well, so my name is John Jupp. I'm a pastor down here in Tampa, Florida. Go Bucks! And so I'm thankful.
Edit that out.
You can't edit that out. Okay, it's good. But I'm pretty sure the reason I was asked to be a part of this was they had a whole bunch of brilliant people and they just needed some average Joe guy. And so I'm just the average Joe. But in all sincerity, I really, God has blessed me by bringing me through some wonderful trials in my life that God has just used to purge me. He continues to do so, and I'm thankful for that. And I feel like it's really shown me just a unique perspective on helping people where they're at each day. You know, sometimes we have like these mountaintop expectations of people on a daily basis, but God really meets us in the valleys. And so I would say that in a real way, my desire every day is just to help people where they're at. You know, so many times we have such great expectations of where they want to be, and I want to get you there, but in order for you to get there, we have to kind of start today. And so I think my perspective in writing and just blogging or whatever it may be is really just to meet people at their heart and really just try to love you where you're at. And I would just say, like, for me, God has really just given me just a strong desire of empathy. I'm one of those people that, like, if you're crying, I'm crying. I don't know how to put that. Like, when you're crying, I'm just going to get with you. And so a lot of this for me is really just trying to be an encouragement to people and trying to be a help any way that we can. And my wife really is the brains of the operation. If you
For sure.
see anything good come out of this, it's my wife. Okay. She's my everything. So
We're going to get her involved too. We're going to have to make sure she's helping out. In fact, Christy and I, Christy, I'm coming to you next. Christy and I are going to be doing a once a month live show is kind of what we're calling it. It'll turn into a podcast, but it's primarily intended to be a Facebook show where on the first Tuesday night of the month, we'll actually meet live and go live on Facebook, and we'll be promoting that and trying to get people. The goal is to get people to kind of watch live. We may eventually do it like Facebook and YouTube and spread it out some, but it's just the Everyday Christian Show. And we are bringing on guests. We're actually bringing on a couple of guests each show. Typically we'll have kind of somebody with their story, and my goal is to have musicians and have them show us some songs that they're working on and perform some of their music live on the show for us. So a lot of really cool things that we're going to be doing. But John and Ashley, Lord willing, are going to be our first guest next month. And so really excited to have them on board and be a part of that, because they've got just I don't want to say it's an incredible testimony, because everybody has an incredible testimony, but it's an impactful testimony. I'll put it that way. It's a story that I think God can really use to encourage people. So excited to have John on board and have them on that show here coming up in just a couple weeks as well. All right, my favorite collaborator of the whole group, the person whose name I bear in my window when it pops up over here, because I'm using her account and it keeps popping up, as Christy McMorris. My wife, Christy, is a collaborator. And I will be honest, it is not just because she's my wife. It is because she is better than I am. And she writes and speaks incredibly well. In fact, just before this, she's the Chamber of Commerce director in our town. She literally did an entire online presentation for the chamber and then got off and jumped on this call as well. I know that I'm going to have her. I'm actually going to interview her on my podcast and talk about how to serve in your community, because it's what she is extraordinary at. She went and applied. I'm just going to brag on you for a second, and then you can talk about stuff. She applied for the job of chamber director, having no idea what they paid, for one reason: she wanted to be in our community. And she literally, they asked her, like, well, how much are you going to need to make? And she was like, I hadn't thought about that yet. She hadn't. She just wanted to be in our community, and she's a softball and volleyball coach. Even though I look like the athlete because of my physique, she really is the one that does that. But Christy, tell us a little bit about your story and how you're going to be involved in the network. And some of these people, just so you know, it isn't all happening in March. Some of these things are kind of trickling out over the course of the next few months. But Christy, tell us a little bit.
Yeah, so I don't really know what to add to my story on that. I wear many hats, but I like to change them up, so it's fine. I have a lot in my closet. I am passionate for the everyday Christian woman. I'm passionate for women in general. I have a women's group, a ladies group for our church, and the Lord has really, really laid that on my heart to minister to women and to be an influence and to create that community and letting women know their value and their identity is in Christ and Christ alone. I think as women, we get so caught up on what we're supposed to be and what we should look like inside and out. And Christ has that mapped out for us. And so I think more towards the fall, just because I do have a lot going on. This spring, I am joining our school board. I'm sitting on the board. So I think this fall, I will start that podcast, The Everyday Christian Woman. But I will be on the lives, like Matt said, with him every first Tuesday of the month, and then helping out just back end office kind of stuff as much as I can. But yeah, anything else, babe, that I should add to that?
The biggest distinction too, just to clarify, you're focusing on women in more of a general sense. So it will at times focus on young single women, other times single moms, other times older women in the later part of their years. Lysandra is more specifically mom focused. So I just don't want people to be like, well, why both of them? They're supposed to be very different. And I'm actually really excited because you thought about doing something more mom. We talked about maybe mom centered, but it was like your heart was really to be more about being a woman of God, which includes being a mom and being
At times,
lots of other
sure.
things. So
Yep.
two kind of distinctions there.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to go on to Kimberly now and chat with you for a second. Kimberly, I'm so thankful to have you on board. And I know Kimberly the least in this group, but really excited from some of the stuff that I've seen that you're producing. I know you're already blogging and doing some of those things. So introduce yourself to us and tell us a little bit about kind of your expertise and what you're bringing.
Well, hello, Matt. I am Kimberly. My husband and I are on staff at Southern Hills Church in Las Vegas, Nevada. My main responsibility is I am the lead musician there. So I am a musician first and foremost. And one of my other big responsibilities is I'm on our counseling team. As a pastor's wife, I began to share my story about a sexual assault I experienced in college, and the floodgates opened for women at our church who wanted to talk to someone. And from that, the Lord laid on my heart to begin blogging. I originally thought it might just be dedicated to the issue of sexual assault, because I do have a real passion, especially for women who are in ministry and are trying to help other women while they're seeking healing themselves. But the Lord really asked me to broaden that. So my blog is called Set in Silver. It's at setinsilver.org, and it is really focused to women in general. And the thought of it is, with it being set in silver, that God wants our words that we use, just like he says in Proverbs, to be set in silver. And so it's having conversations and in an everyday sense about womanhood and having wisdom and in the areas of worship. And this is what I focus most of my writing on. And I do dedicate one post per month to coming alongside and helping those struggling with overcoming sexual assault.
Awesome. I'm excited to have you on board, and I'm thankful for all of the different experiences that are being brought to the table here. And I hope people are picking up on a lot of different themes. And so the idea behind this is not every writer, not every collaborator is going to be like your niche, like that's the one. But hopefully somebody here, whether it's about mental illness or sexual assault or being a woman of God or being a mom or being a man of God, and we're gonna address a lot of those things, being a disciple of Christ or being walking through some Christian topics and faithfulness and things of that nature. All of that is kind of being brought to the table here. So hopefully that's helpful to you. All right, I'm going to go lastly to Thomas and have you introduce yourself. The reason I'm coming to Thomas last is so everybody here is called a collaborator. Thomas is actually one of our editors, which basically means that Thomas can veto any of these other people at will. If he's looking at something and goes, I just don't know that this is what we're looking for. Thomas is helping me with that so that we have a couple of people. My goal on this was not to be the final say on everything. I wanted kind of a team of people that were working together and kind of making sure it was the right content. Because if it's just stuff I like, then it may not be the most helpful. We really wanted to broaden it out a little bit. So there's a broader team of people that are helping improve content, but Thomas is really helping kind of take a lead role in that and spearhead and making sure things are moving forward. So Thomas, tell us a little bit about yourself and because I know you're actually a content creator as well for this. So tell us what you're going to be doing.
So I'm the lead pastor of Good News in Cedar Rapids. Been leading our church for over 11 years now. And the thing that I'm most passionate about is helping people take their next step with Jesus, whatever that is. And I'm going to be doing a few different things as far as content creation is concerned. But the thing that I'm most excited about is making a podcast called Following Jesus. And I think about Jesus' call to his disciples when he said, "Follow me." And the call was primarily a call to just be with him. Yeah. And I think sometimes we have this idea of a disciple of Jesus is just some grand Christian, something that maybe a pastor can attain, or some Christian woman that we kind of idolize that only she can attain. But really being a disciple of Jesus is about walking with him every single day, living every single moment. So what does that mean for you? And so one of the things we're going to do is I'm just going to spend time in the life of Jesus and see, all right, what did he do in this moment? How did he respond to this person or interact in this situation? And then how can you and I take that and become more like him? So I'm really excited about just taking little steps with Jesus, because that's what the Christian life is all about.
I love it. I think it's going to be super helpful, and in a little more broad sense. It's men, women, any stage of your life. This is a podcast that I think will be helpful for everybody. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of do the same thing that all of you did, kind of let everybody know who I am and kind of why we got this thing started. And then we'll wrap up with, if you guys have, we'll kind of make a little collaborator meeting real quick. If you guys have questions or thoughts or anything to add, we'll throw that in there. But my name is Matt McMorris, even though it says Christy McMorris on the screen. And I pastor Grace Valley Church in Wisconsin. And it's a church plant that's about 3 years old, and we've just seen God do some incredible things. It's a small town. I grew up in a small town, so I have a heart for small towns, regular people, the average Joe. And I was struggling in that most places that I looked, there were podcasts and articles and websites that were creating content for theologians and creating content for pastors and creating content for people that had a pretty good knowledge of the Bible. And I, as a pastor in a small town, I also work a full-time job at a factory because we're a church plant, didn't have a lot of resources. And so as I was working in this factory, I met a lot of great people that had wonderful questions. Is the Bible trustworthy? How do you know Christianity is true? Why aren't you this? Or why do you have that denomination or that faith? And I felt like I wish I had a place that I could send people and say, you can learn so much about Jesus and so much about faith at this location. And there are lots of good websites that are about different topics, but not so much in a general kind of everyday Christian sense. And so as I began to look, God kind of began to say, stop looking and start creating. And I was like, I don't have time for that. So I suckered all of these people into helping me so that we could actually make it happen and make it better than I could do by myself. And God just kind of put that on my heart of create something for the everyday Christian. And so the everyday Christian has a kind of a dual meaning. Every day in the sense of it's nurses, it's police officers, it's plumbers, it's factory workers, it's the everyday person, but also the everyday Christian, people that are getting up every day. And so you go to church on Sunday and you hear a good message and you sing some worship songs and you put a few bucks in the offering plate and you do those things. But then on Monday you wake up and it's another day to be a Christian. It's another day to be a follower of Christ. And so we want to have content available to you on a regular basis that you can kind of go back to. And you can, if you like to read, we'll have articles. If you like to listen, we'll have podcasts. If you like videos, we're going to be working towards creating some video content. So there's a lot of things that we want to be able to create to serve you. But the idea really is to create things that help the everyday person live the everyday Christian life. And so that's really a lot of what this is about and what we're moving towards. I'm going to be creating a podcast called Christian Conversations. And the idea behind it is that I find that I'm encouraged by a multitude of things, but two things in particular with this podcast that I want to provide encouragement on that encourage me. One is knowing that there are other people out there that are going through the same kinds of things that I might be going through. And so I'm talking to people that are in all walks of life, all around the world. I have interviews lined up with people in other countries, people that have gone through. I interviewed Jen about mental illness, and I'm talking to a brigadier general. I'm talking to a guy who is a pastor, and he's also a full-time outdoorsman. He has his own channel or his own show on the Pursuit channel on TV. So all kinds of walks of life, a former addict and a Bible expert. And so what we want to do is I want to get their stories or find out their area of expertise and just glean and learn from them. So knowing that I'm not the only one, and then being able to, in about a 30-minute window, be able to learn something that's going to help me in my personal faith, my personal walk with the Lord, that's just super helpful for me. So I wanted to create a podcast where that was the reality, where on a weekly basis, you can just get some content that's going to be helpful to you in a general sense, and some stories that hopefully will encourage you. So I'll be writing and doing some other things, creating some other content as well, but that's really a big part of it. So we're a network that's creating podcasts, articles, social media posts, some video right now, but even more so, hopefully in the future, live Facebook shows all kinds of things that are going to be coming. And here's the dream. The dream is to create even more. And so we want to put some books into print. We want to create some short videos that have encouraging messages that are easy for you to share with your friends. We want to be able to explain the gospel in very easy to understand ways. We want to create video content that explains what is redemption, what is justification, what are these big words that we hear sometimes, what do they mean? And we want to be able to create content that helps you understand it and helps you be able to explain it so you're more confident in your faith and more confident in your walk with God. And we want to answer questions you have. So if you could, be sure to message us. Shoot us a message on Facebook. We're probably going to get on some other platforms, and Tyler's working on getting us some email addresses set up, and all of that kind of stuff is coming. But we figured we're gonna start, and all of that stuff will come. So right now, Facebook is the easiest way to get us. Shoot us a message on our Facebook page and just say, hey, could you guys talk about this topic? This is something that I don't really understand, and we will find an expert and we'll bring that to your attention, and we'll try to address those things and help you in any way that we can. We want this to be helpful to you. Our goal is to find out what you need and how you need it, and then be able to provide that so that you can grow in your walk with God. Now, this does not take the place of your local church. Please understand that. Please make sure that you're in a good Bible teaching church. If you don't know one around you, let us know. We'll help you find one. We're well connected. We've got a lot of friends all over the country, and we will find a church or two or three close to you that you can check out, and we'll guarantee you that they're good Bible teaching churches that'll be able to help you in your walk with God. This is in addition to that. Thomas is a pastor, but he may not be your pastor. I'm a pastor, but I may not be your pastor. So have a pastor, have a group of people that you connect with, and be sure that you're growing with your local church. And then use this as a tool and a resource to help you along the way as well. If you have questions or thoughts or anything, let us know. We want to be able to help you with that. All right, I'm going to open it up to you guys before we close down. Does anybody have any final thoughts or questions or comments or anything before we go? Everybody good? I'm super excited to have you guys on board. Wave at me or something if you have anything. Otherwise, we're gonna let this die out and be done, so people can stop listening to our boring conversation. All right. So everydaychristiannetwork.com is where you can find us online. You can find us on Facebook and hopefully soon on some other channels. I think John Jupp is probably going to start a TikTok channel for us. I mean, that just seems like a good fit for you. Maybe not, but I think you'd be great at it. So we'll see. Maybe we can talk you into that.
He's got the dance moves for it, I promise you.
Yeah, there you go. We'll get John Jupp dancing
we were
on
in the
TikTok.
same dorm in college.
You have stories then. Awesome. All right. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in. And we are launching March 1st. That's the official. So if you're watching this before that, March 1st is the official launch. That's when our website's going to have new content populated, new podcasts dropping. Thomas has one dropping in March. I have one dropping in March. Soon thereafter, Jen's will be coming, and then a few others coming in the future as well. So pray for us, follow us, tell your friends and family about us. Let everybody know, because we really want to try to impact as many lives with the gospel of Jesus as we can. Thanks for tuning in.